So, I have about an hour until dinner time, and I'm at basically the finale of season 2, and so I'm gonna be streaming as much as possible to get through the finale, and then I have to stream again later and to get to the premiere of season freaking 3 because I heard that's a big reaction episode too, so... But right now, I'm gonna try to get as far as possible before dinner. So I'm gonna be watching A Kind Mother. What has happened recently? Freaking Jonathan Sims is being a sad little dude because that Ghost Hunt UK person came and was like, "That's not Sasha, by the way. I don't know why you're trying to tell me that's Sasha." And he's like, "But it is Sasha. What?" It's like. Jonathan Sims having a hard time. He's got wacky mind magic in his brain. It's not his fault. He's having a hard time, you know. Okay. What else happened? A bunch of stuff happened. A bunch of connectees. Michael showed up in one episode, Insomnia episode. A bunch of stuff happened. A bunch of stuff is always happening. Stuffity, all everywhere, all the time. I'm gonna watch the episode. I wanna get through this.
What's real?
Ads, get away.
Linda Julia.
I'm sorry, Patreons.
Amy will be hoping to come see us in
There you go. Sorry, spooky music. I wanna get as much as possible. I'll still be trying to do poetry stuff.
Episode 77. The Kind Mother.
I'll be closing my eyes to try to memorize things better, but I will be listening. I feel like I've gotten better at this.
Case 994.
Gertrude. He did say he knew what thing to look at now. Which of Gertrude's
Incident occurred in
tapes?
Draycott, Somerset, August 1994. Victim's name given as Rose Cooper. Statement given 15th of September 1994. Committed to tape 4th of November 1996. Gertrude Robinson recording. There is a stranger claiming to be my mother. I don't know who she is. Everyone else says that she's my mother and gives me looks of alarm.
This is why Jonathan Sims knew. Smart boy.
I don't know what to do.
Did you perhaps see a table?
To be honest, it's only been in the last 5 years or so that we really began speaking again. She was always a strong woman.
Does she have perhaps have a table in her living room?
And throughout my childhood, it gradually got worse. Nothing I ever did was quite good enough.
Well,
Any hint of pride I might have taken in myself or my achievements was always
I know.
undercut by
Are you sure
some
Cooper isn't an
touching
Asian last name in this case?
Even on those rare
Okay,
occasions
I'll
where
stop.
I succeeded at something highly enough to actually warrant her praise, it was always appended with doubt. I remember when I was 15, I came first in an inter-school athletics competition.
Dang.
I was 2 seconds ahead in the 100-meter sprint, and all she could say was, "Make sure being the best runner doesn't distract you from your exams." It didn't really come to a head until I got engaged to Lawrence.
Oh my god. Okay,
We'd been
I'm pausing.
dating
I'm sorry. I made the Asian joke, but I thought they were gonna go somewhere like super dramatic with that, like only 2 seconds. You. Sorry, there's something in my throat. I hope I don't have, you know. There was like, I thought they were gonna go like only 2 seconds. You almost lost or something like that. But no, it was the Asian thing. I thought it was gonna be something funny that I could laugh at. Nope, that's something I've heard before. Basically, make sure it doesn't distract you from your schoolwork, even though you're doing something you're really proud of and participating in. Make sure it doesn't distract you from your schoolwork. Oh my god, I never thought I could relate to an athlete before. Okay, let's just continue.
Through university, and I'd sat through enough awkward family dinners to know that my mother didn't like
Okay,
it.
the audio
But her
works.
disapproval was nothing new, so I ignored it. When he proposed to me after our graduation, I'd assumed she would simply tolerate it, as she had every other one of my decisions. I was wrong. When I told her, she got angry. Not the chill, disapproving anger I was used to, but a genuine, shouting rage. She accused me of throwing my life away, told me I'd regret it, and that Lawrence was good-for-nothing scum who'd drag me down and stop me achieving anything. I answered her in kind, and the argument that we had that night was the last time I saw her for almost 10 years. I tried to convince myself that our differences were just that. We were simply two very different people. But sometimes I worry that the reason we could never get on was that we were far too much alike. For instance,
I
we
hate
were both far too
thinking
stubborn
about that.
for our own good.
That's usually how it
Maybe
works
that's
with
why I stayed with
contentious
Lawrence through two
parent-child
affairs,
relationships.
as
You
if
pass
accepting that I'd
pass
made a
on your
mistake would
awful
be left to
traits,
her
and it
only.
makes it worse.
In the end, I only left him when he was jailed for embezzlement 8 years into our marriage. Even then, I didn't want to speak to her.
Maybe she had she had something
It
on
wasn't
on
until
him.
my father had his accident that I finally decided to try and make amends. My father is a gentleman. To this day, I couldn't really tell you anything about his thoughts or opinions on anything, as they were invariably bulldozed by my mother. He was a benign, ineffectual presence, always in the shadow. For all that, I did love him. So when he fell from a ladder and ended up in a wheelchair, I made the decision
But
to
the
try and
ladders.
reconnect with my parents. It wasn't easy.
Evil ladders.
Beyond the greying of her hair, my mother hadn't changed, and the reconciliation I'd hoped for never really came. I spent my visits biting my tongue, or getting into vicious fights whenever I wasn't able to. But I could always see on my father's face how much he liked to see me, how happy he was to have our small family together again, so I persevered. I think she saw it too, to be honest, and whenever he wheeled himself painfully into the room, she would try her best not to antagonize me. After a while, we came to an uneasy peace. There were practical issues as well. They'd retired to the small village of Draycott in the Somerset countryside, and as I lived in London and didn't have a car, it was 2 trains and a long bus ride any time I wanted to see them. But I made the effort. I even conceived a reason to go more often. I've been doing some freelance work this summer for the British Library, recording and compiling oral histories on various topics, and it so happened that during her time as an academic, my mother had been something of an authority on English and Welsh folklore. In fact, one of the reasons she always gave for retiring out there was how many myths and legends made their home in the area. So I proposed that I make some recordings of her, telling and discussing them for the project. She agreed, though not before telling me how pointless the whole thing sounded, and over the last few months I saw them several times. My father was happy, the recordings I got were surprisingly usable, and everything seemed to be getting better. 2 weeks ago, I went to see them, and someone else opened the door. Someone I didn't recognize. She wore my mother's clothes, but they shouldn't have fitted her. My mother is tall, rail-thin, and always keeps her hair cut short, but the woman who answered my knocking was shorter, rounded about the middle, and wore her curly white hair down almost to her shoulders. I had definitely never seen her before. I asked if my parents
What's with
were
these
home,
people?
and she laughed.
And
It was a
what
soft,
about them
joyful
makes
sound
them
that was
able
so
to
unlike anything I expected to
able
hear
to
in my
remember
house
the
that I
old
had to
loved,
take
the
a step
original
back
loved
to
one?
collect my thoughts.
Like, what about them makes them
My father
remember?
wheeled
I don't
round the
know.
corner,
I guess we'll
shouted
figure that out
something,
probably
and everything was perfectly
soon.
normal. He moved up
What's with that
beside the plump
YouTuber
woman
lady?
standing in the
I keep on
doorway,
calling her YouTuber lady. I'm sorry.
smiling. The image made me feel queasy. I'm not even sure why.
Not the
At this
unsettling
point, I had no
smiles.
reason to think this person was anything other
Stock
than a friend of my
photos.
parents, but something wasn't right. I asked where my mother was, and they both got very quiet. I repeated the question with more force, and my father looked up to this strange woman in confusion. She smiled sadly and stepped towards me, opening her arms as if to hug me, but I yelled at her to get back, demanding to see my mother. My father's face grew dark, and he told me that my joke wasn't funny. With the most force
You know
I'd
what's
ever
funny about this? I had a dream just like this when I was like 6, or like 4 or something. It's one of my earliest nightmares I can remember, because I talked about it the day after to my family. And it was just so memorable, I guess, when I woke up from it. It was like super, super scary. Like, like in my dream, I remember it so clearly because of how often like I talk about it, and how I guess, and how I think I might have written it down or something. Usually when I write down a dream, I can remember it like forever. But like, it was like I came out of my room. It was right in the hallway, right outside my door, and then there was this guy, and he said he was my dad, and my mom said it was my dad, and everyone said it was my dad, but it was a fucking white man. It was like Mr. Rogers, tall freaking Mr. Rogers, not like he was like he looked kind of like Mr. Rogers, like old, not old, but like not too old, but like old, like white old, like he got gray hair. He didn't look like wrinkly like old, but like he looked like he had gray hair. He was middle aged, probably my dad's age, but like what white people look like when they're when they're that old. He had gray hair. He was tall. He was way too tall for my father. Like a white person. He was white. That's why I was freaked out. He was white. And then everyone in my family was like, they were all the same, and they were like, "That's your dad." And I'm like, no. And he would kneel down on one knee because he was so tall. Like he kneeled down on one knee, and he said, "Come here." And I was like, and he tried to hug me, and I was like, "No, no." And I was like this little tiny child going like, "No." And I woke up. And like I always get reminded when I hear a story like this, like, I don't think this concept is new because it's like a nightmare that everyone's talked about. Like the idea of someone in your life being just replaced by someone else, and everyone else acting like it's the same person. Like I feel like I've seen this concept before, at least maybe just because it's been in my head forever since I had that nightmare. But like every time I see something like this, I think of that nightmare, and I'm like, ah. And it's like, yeah, since I saw that like episode, was it episode 2? Episode 2 or something. Like even since I heard about that, I was like, in the back of my head, there's that nightmare playing. I'm not that scared of it right now, but like I was scared back then. But I wasn't. I was scared in the nightmare, but afterwards I was like, that's kind of weird. It's very funny. Okay, I'll continue.
From him.
You don't want to
He
hear
told
this.
me that however angry I was, this wasn't the right way to deal with it. I looked back at this woman, standing there with open arms, and she smiled at me. "Come, give your mother a hug," she said. The hour or two after that are a bit of a blur. I have vague memories of being numbly taken through into the living room, sat on the sofa, and handed a cup of tea. I tried to drink it as they talked on at me, but it was ice cold, so I must have been sitting there a long time. I nodded once or twice, I think. My dad clearly thought I was having some sort of breakdown, and was just talking about whatever came into his head in the hopes of calming me down. The woman who was not my mother just talked cheerily, as though there was nothing at all amiss. She had a kind voice, and her words were warm and friendly. She was nothing like my mother, and I was very quickly becoming deeply afraid. Had she done something to my real mother, and somehow convinced my father she was her? It seemed a ridiculous thought. My father may have been disabled, but his mind was still sharp, and he'd never shown any signs of the sort of dementia that would let a stranger pose as his wife. Was he her prisoner? Maybe.
I
He
mean,
didn't seem to be acting as though anything was wrong, and if that was the case, why bother trying to convince me of so obvious a lie? I excused myself and moved quickly out towards the back garden. Neither of them made a move to stop me. I saw a phone near the back porch and grabbed it, intending to call the police, when something caught my eye. It was a series of photographs on the wall, showing our family in happier times. It had been there for as long as I'd been to the house, and likely a lot longer. I'd spent a long time staring at it, my first visit there, lost in pleasant nostalgia, remembering days at the beach or the trip we took to Hanover when I was 8. But now in every one of them, there stood this new woman, where my mother should have been. She looked younger in these pictures, just like my father, and across the dozen pictures on the wall I could see a timeline of this woman growing old alongside him. There was no way these photos could have been staged.
it's just being teleported into an alternate dimension, basically. Like, it's so weird.
I remembered I'd sat on the pictures by accident on the journey home, bending the corner out of place. I'd got a nasty talking to after that. and certainly not from the kindly fraud currently putting the kettle on in the kitchen. It didn't make any sense. It still doesn't make any sense. After dinner, I insisted that we get out the photo albums, spouting some nonsense about catching up on memories. My father and the woman who was not my mother agreed readily enough, and so out came the albums, and I began to look through them. I must have looked at well over 500 photographs that evening, and not a single one was out of place, or failed to feature this stranger where my mother should have been. As my turning of the pages became more and more frantic, I spotted a look on the face of this new mother. It was amused, almost mocking, and I became sure that she knew. Whoever this woman that called herself Rose Cooper was, she knew it was a lie as much as I did, and my confusion and fear delighted her. For all that, though, I was at a complete loss to explain any of it. Every piece of photographic evidence I can find supported this woman's claim to be my mother. My father's memories agreed, as did the memories of the two neighbours I was able to talk to the following day, Tom Harrison and Joanne Fisher. Both of them told me they'd known George and Rose Cooper since they'd moved in. And when I asked them to describe Rose, they said she was medium height, with a kind round face and long curly white hair. I even took a walk up to the Church of St. Peter's, where I knew my mother occasionally visited, to ask the vicar, a polite man named Neil Angus. He told me the same thing as the others, though he did
What
ask
is
about my
this
mother's
thing?
health.
I have no idea what any of the things in fucking the Magnus Archives are. Like, why do they do this?
Come out to help after hearing her
Like,
cry out.
why is this the thing that they do?
Bit
Like,
puzzled when he said this.
I don't know.
I pressed him further, and he told me that although she'd seemed fine when he'd reached her, the scream was like nothing he'd ever heard. I asked the woman who was not my mother about her fall near the church. She looked me right in the eyes, smiled, and said it was nothing. She just had a bit of a funny turn. That's it, really. I left immediately and haven't been back. I've never been a believer in the supernatural before, but it seems clear to me that something attacked my mother near St. Peter's Church.
That's pretty good evidence.
And somehow
They got all the ammunition.
completely.
The scream. We don't even have that, but do we have that from the other guy? The guy who disappeared?
The tapes still have her real voice on. I have a few,
Eh.
so you can have one for whatever tests you might want to do. I'm going to go back
We
to
can't-
my father and play him the
Oh!
maybe it'll jog a memory or make
Jonathan Sims can look at the old tapes with Sasha's voice on them. Because we know, like, tapes and shit are, we already knew that tapes and shit weren't affected by this wacky supernatural stuff. Like, I mean, like, they're less affected than technology or something, I don't know. We know that the tapes are pretty concrete, and that's why Jonathan Sims relies on them so much. I keep on calling him Jonathan Sims full on, that's his full name, just cause. I don't know. It's funny. Okay. But fucking John can look at, we know for a fact there's old tapes with Sasha's voice in them where she just walks in and interrupts him. Like, that's like my first, like, I'm pretty sure the first person who interrupted a recording was Sasha. And I have that in my head. Like, the first time I heard a voice other than the first voice in ages I'd heard that wasn't Jonathan Sims. It was Sasha busting through the door and going like, isn't it called something? It's like something. Isn't it pronounced something? And I remember where I was when I heard that. I was like in a fucking parking lot at a mall with my parents and sisters. But like, I was like, there's another person here, and that was like, we have them. Like, he can just listen to the tapes and hear that it's not freaking Sasha. Oh my god. Okay, let's go.
He'll try to have me put away. Either way, I have to try. I used to think I hated my mother. I really did.
I hate her enough to
But
make
now I
her
can't
make her
stop
get
listening to those
supernaturally
Now I know that the
replaced
only way
or
I'll ever
killed.
hear her voice again. All of them except the tape we recorded on the old myths of the Fae, the changelings. I'm not ready to listen to that one yet. Final comments. Unfortunately for Miss Cooper's attempts to convince her father, it appears George Cooper died of carbon monoxide poisoning from a gas leak 2 days after this statement was recorded, before her next visit. No other bodies were found, and there has been no sign of anyone identifying themselves as Rose Cooper since. Based on the interactions and effects, I
Why
suspect
is Sasha
this is
still
the
here?
creature that Adelar Decker refers to as the not them in statement 9910607. If the pattern of behavior is consistent with what he establishes, then further follow-up on this case is pointless. The thing has finished with the Cooper family and will not be revisiting them. It rarely seems to stay in the same place or with the same people for long, so it's hard to guess at its motives. Personally, I suspect it to be an aspect of the stranger, though that's entirely conjecture at this point.
But why did
What
you tell us
puzzles me
that
more
then?
is why one or two people can always see through it. The sheer power that it must be able to call upon to be able to rewrite so much of reality.
Ooh,
is
I love
staggering.
reality warping
So why
creatures.
does it
I just
always
like to hearing it
click
said.
with witnesses? It is at least reassuring to know that magnetic tape seems to escape being overwritten. So if I get changed, you can be sure that this is my real voice. Based on Decker's statement, it would seem Polaroids are also relatively stable. Beyond that, I find it comforting that this creature appears content to travel freely.
That's why that old
turning
picture
random
stayed the
terror.
same for that guy.
Dread to think the damage it could inflict if it had a purpose. I have destroyed the tape Miss Cooper provided us as a precaution. I have no interest in attracting this thing's attention.
We heard so much. I'm pretty sure that was the first mention of the stranger. I keep thinking that Michael's the stranger, but I don't know for certain. I think he's been called a stranger at least once, but I have no clue. Because I've heard the stranger before, and I just keep connecting him in my mind with Michael, but I don't know if he's actually him. But if the stranger's Michael, then why would he? That doesn't add up. Because why would he warn us? Because Gertrude thinks that it's part of the stranger, but if the stranger is Michael, then why would Michael warn us about Sasha? So either Michael isn't the stranger, and I'm going wacko. I have no idea who Michael is. I don't know who Michael is. That's true. I'm just running off conjecture and like these random terms that I've heard before. I don't actually know who the stranger is or what the stranger is. What's probably more accurate? Ooh, this is cool. This is cool. But she said the stranger. I've heard of that thing before. I've heard of it. Oh my god, we're hearing so many things. Someone said the vast. Someone said the stranger. Someone said one other thing that I forgot. I've heard of those two things before. So, it's called the not them. That's cool. That's cool. Because it's like, I was thinking, what's the point of this thing if it like just takes over someone's takes over someone's life, and then just murders the people they're close to and leaves? Like, what's the point of it? And then she said that was its pattern, and I was like, oh, okay. So there's that. Interesting. It's called the not them. So that's why it's called not Sasha in every single freaking... I mean, it's called not Sasha because that's what they called her in the credits, but it's called not Sasha, specifically not Sasha, in every single wiki entry that I read the summary of. Like, I reread summaries because I'm really bad at focusing, and I try to reread them to like process them in my head. And it always says not Sasha, in parentheses, acting as Sasha James, or whatever her last name is. And it's like, okay, I get it. You can just say Sasha, or like you can just call her not Sasha. You don't have to put it in parentheses. I know. But yeah, you just say the not them. That's cool. That's a cool, because it being called not them, like, implies that it's like a personal slight. Like, the person referring to this being is personally, like, emotionally attached to that person, and it's not them, like this person. Like, but when it says them, it's like, it implies familiarity, so it's like, it really adds to like the It feels like victimization of this creature. Not victimization of this creature. The victimization of other people by this creature. You know. It's a cool name. It's a cool name. So apparently that's a big power. We just got power levels referred to as well. This thing has power levels. It's a fucking thingy. I'm making sure I'm streaming. We got power levels referred to. Okay. Interesting. Not them. And apparently that's big power. So it is rewriting reality. That I know that's the only thing that makes sense, because it impacts everyone's memories, and it impacts all these pictures too. And it's like, if it impacts pictures and freaking everyone's memories, then it makes sense. But like, I just to hear concretely that it's rewriting reality is like. I love my cosmic lore. I guess. Okay, I'm gonna listen to Jonathan Sims freak out.
While rifling through the boxes Basira provided me, it was labelled changeling/imposter, and given Melanie's outburst last week, I thought it a prudent place to start listening. It is the tapes that went missing after the Prentice attack all had Sasha's voice on.
Oh, of course. Smart bitch.
I don't know what this... I know exactly what this means. I don't know what to do about it. I can't tell the others. Even if I could get them to believe me, they'd find out about Gertrude's tapes. I can't risk that.
Really?
I need to deal with this myself. And that means I need more information on this thing. How it works, how it kills.
So, Sasha's not dead, is she? For real?
Going to start by tracking down the statement by this Adelard Decker. I think the statements from the 90s are marginally more organized now. If it's here, if Sasha... I'm going to find out how to kill it.
Let's go. Bitch. Papa, we're taking action. So much for sitting around in a room listening to tapes. Let's go. Let's murder this reality rewriting being. Let's do it. For Sasha. Where is Sasha? Like, I hope these people... It seems like that person was dead. Like they got attacked in the woods and they got replaced and they're dead. And I don't like that, because that means Sasha might be dead. And I'm like, no! Can we bring back Sasha somehow? Please? Like, I feel like I thought she was main, you know? We got introduced to all of our characters one by one. And it's like, these are our mains. Don't let this be Kingsman, which I just watched a few days ago, where I thought someone was the main character and they just freaking died. Bro. Okay. Interesting. So this is our villain this season. You know, that got spoiled for me one time, because the first episode where Jane Prentice appeared, literally, Jonathan Sims acted like he knew who Jane Prentice was, and then like in like his post statement, and I was like, was she mentioned before? And then I clicked on her name because I thought she was mentioned before, and the first thing that shows up is main antagonist of season 1, and I'm like, no! I was like on episode like 10 or something, and I'm like, what the heck? It was awful. This did not get spoiled to me. Whatever the heck, freaking not them, apparently is our season finale antagonist, which is cool. We have been being harassed by not Sasha this entire season. Every time she walks in the room and everyone's like, hi Sasha. It's like, okay, next episode.
Rustyquill.com at mail at
I'm running through this. Sorry.
See you. Show yourself.
The heck was that? Well, how did I get all the way to the end? What the heck? I didn't mean to do that. Who did? What the frick? Spotify? I'm gonna go insane. Okay, let's ignore that. Spotify hates me, and wants me to die. Okay, let's just watch this episode. And then I have to eat dinner, and then I'll watch these two,
Rusty Quill
the last episodes of the finale later.
Magnus Archives.
Episode 78. Distant Cousin.
Sorry, I'm blocking myself accidentally.
We didn't. Statement of Lawrence Moore regarding something that was not his cousin. Original statement.
We're really focusing in on this dude.
Audio recording by Jonathan Sims.
I love the variations.
Institute, London. Statement begins.
This man really cannot sink back into his statement giver
I
voice.
used to have a cousin. His name was Carl.
At least at the beginning.
We weren't close.
He's getting tireder and
Saw him
tireder. It's
plenty
good.
growing up. His family lived in Peterborough and mine lived in Leicester, so it wasn't too far. We'd go over occasionally, or we'd all be left together at our grandmother's if our parents were doing something together. They never came over to our house, though. At least, I don't remember them doing so. My memories of childhood are a bit hazy, so I can't be completely...
Little note. I'm so glad that tape recorders and Polaroids are somehow not affected by by reality warping beings. I can't believe tape recorders and Polaroids are impervious to the powers of reality. Let's go. The retro vibes, they're so strong. Okay.
Putting it down on paper now, though, I realised that given how close we lived, it's odd that we didn't see each other more. I wonder how well our parents really got on. Thinking about it, I suppose they never had much in common. Either way, we got on fine, me and Carl, I think. I was a few years younger than him, and when you're a kid, that makes a lot of difference. I suspect he saw me as a bit of an annoyance, a bit of a tag-along, but I don't remember us ever getting into fights or anything like that. We'd spend most of the time exploring my grandmother's wide country garden, or sitting awkwardly together pretending to do something while our parents talked about whatever grown-up topics needed their attention. Since I grew up and moved out, though, I hardly ever saw Carl. A family dinner at Christmas some years, or the occasional big family birthday. But if you totaled up all the hours we'd spent together since I turned 18, I doubt we'd be very far into double digits. If you only count the time we'd actually spent talking to each other, I'm not sure you could even piece together a full hour. It didn't really bother me, and it certainly didn't bother him. I remember shortly after I moved to London, I actually bumped into him shopping in Covent Garden. Turned out he lived about 20 minutes bus ride from me. I half-heartedly suggested we should go for a drink or hang out or something, and he said, yeah, in a flat tone that told me he had absolutely no interest whatsoever in doing so. I wonder if I ever did anything as a child to set him against me, or in that tiny sliver of time we actually interacted as adults. It's weird to think about people who knew you as a child. You change so much, and when you talk to them again, they're not talking to you. They're talking to someone else, someone you used to be. The person they think they're seeing has been dead for years, but they didn't see the change. They're looking at a complete stranger, and they have no idea. I went to my brother's wedding recently, and there was something pretending to be my cousin Carl. Adam, my brother, had always gotten along slightly better with him than I had, being closer in age, and during the ceremony I had been surprised not to see Carl among the guests. It was only later, at the reception, when I was being introduced to a number of my brother's friends I'd never met before, that I offered my hand to a dark-haired stranger and asked his name. He looked at me for a long, off-putting second as a wide smile crept across his face. I know it's been a long time, Lawrence, he said, but surely you haven't forgotten your cousin Carl. What are you supposed to say to that? I just
Run.
stammered and wandered off. I didn't
Or that.
What was happening until I asked my brother who the stranger was, and he gave me a puzzled look and told me, yes, that was Carl.
So yeah, how did these people
I
know?
assumed he must be playing some sort of
What
joke,
about
but
them
it really
makes
doesn't bother
them
me, so I asked
impervious
my
to
father,
this?
and he said the same thing.
A negative relationship, kind of?
Someone who jokes. He's never been
No, Ghost Hunter girl didn't have a
on one
bad
hand,
relationship with
the times
Sasha.
I've ever heard him properly laugh. There was no way
Lack
he
of
would be along
familiarity,
sort of
distance,
track Adam might try to do.
distance. It's in the title. I didn't even notice. I just like. Let me think. I mean, I thought I theorized maybe because Ghost Hunter Lady like didn't have any like prolonged contact, but like there's all these people that don't there's all these people who don't who like didn't seem like they were that close to the mother in the last episode who still got the memories rewritten. But is it like a bond and then distance, or like estrangement? Well, Ghost Hunter Lady, I don't know, but that's what happens with, like, cause like this cousin, like they kind of had a bond a little bit, but like they were never like that close, and then they hadn't seen each other in a long time. And the same with the mother, they were very much so not close, and they hadn't seen each other for a long time. Ish, like just like a mixed relationship or not close. I don't know what causes these people to not be rewritten in their minds.
I looked over, and the person who claimed to be my cousin was staring at me, smiling wide enough to show off rows of yellow-stained teeth. I could feel panic beginning to rise in my chest, and I started asking everyone who might know Carl, and all of them told me the same thing. When my aunt gave me a withering glare for asking who her son was, I had to leave. I just walked out of the
That must be offensive.
car and drove back to London. I don't drink.
To be fair, I forget my relatives all the time.
I thought maybe I was having some sort of dissociative episode. That must have been it. I'd been under a lot of stress at work, and my own marriage had recently ended, so perhaps that had affected me more than I thought. Maybe it had done something to my memory. I even managed to half convince myself that if I was having a nervous breakdown,
Gaslighted by the universe.
Cousin I never see, I'd gotten off quite lightly. But I couldn't let it go. It nagged at me. As I lay awake in my too empty bed, it twisted in my mind. I wasn't just remembering Carl wrong. I did not know the person who was using his name. It wasn't Carl. It just wasn't. I was signed off work at the time and mostly spent my days just kicking around the house.
Why would this thing do that? Gertrude said it was powerful too, and it's like, why do they do these things if they're powerful? Like, what are they? Like, why are they like this?
Taken them, but had never actually gotten around to going through them, and they should still be in the loft. Not having anything better to do, and still a little bit off balance after Adam's wedding, I pulled down the ladder and went to fetch them. The attic space was warm and dry, with that thin film of dust in the air that isn't quite enough to set you coughing, but leaves your mouth cardboard box that held the pictures. My grandmother had loved her camera, and I remember her shelves were always full of tiny canisters of film. But it wasn't until I started to look through them that I realized quite how many pictures she'd actually taken. There were hundreds, maybe thousands in there, and going through them I watched myself grow from a squash-faced toddler to a chubby little boy and a spotty, scowling teenager. And alongside me was my brother Adam, and another child, who I did not recognize, but whose dark hair seemed to match the man I had met at the wedding. By the end,
There's another thing, like, why does this man, this thing, okay, I'm just talking forever because I'm very interested in this thing. Why does this thing, if it can rewrite the universe, rewrite everyone's memories, and also look different every single time, why does it not just turn into that person? Like, why do they have to create an entire different persona or entire different appearance to be that person? Like, I guess if they didn't do that, they wouldn't have to rewrite reality, but why do they have to rewrite reality? Why do they have to be why is the goal confusing everyone? Why is the goal, like, to trick everyone? Why is the goal to be someone different, replace someone, and make everyone think that they're the same? Make the universe think that they're that person. Like, rewrite the universe in that way. Why? It's like, especially, like, considering, like, you can just, like, disguise yourself as a person. Like, why is this a thing? Okay, I'm interested. Okay, I'm just thinking. Okay, I'm sorry.
Only 2 pictures I found of Carl. The Carl I remembered. Light brown hair, cut short.
Sasha was the one taking away the tapes. Not Sasha, I mean.
Second of those photos looked like
It was the ones with her voice in it.
for a different picture of us playing tag.
That makes so much sense.
That one showed the other child where Carl should have been, where I knew he had been. I stared at those photographs.
It's just for these people, to confuse them, to screw them over, the people who remember. I don't know.
At some point, I was roused by a knock on the front door. It wasn't hard or impatient, just a light series of taps, as though whoever was on the other side had no doubt I was in, and was politely trying to attract my attention. I put the pictures back quickly and hurried down to answer it. Standing on the other side was my new cousin Carl. He smiled that same yellow smile and said that he'd been sad to see me leave Adam's wedding so soon, and that since we lived so close together, it seemed rude not to drop by. I tried to turn to leave, to demand to know where Carl was, but my heart was beating so fast and I was just too scared. He walked calmly past me into the house, and I closed the door behind him. What followed was the longest afternoon of my life. I sat in an armchair and he took the sofa opposite, sitting stiffly in a way that seemed far too still. Neither of us said a word. He just stared at me, smile still wide, and something twinkling in his eyes that might have been amusement or triumph. He showed no desire to make any sort of conversation, and I was too terrified to say anything at all. I just kept thinking, what had this man done to Carl? And could he do it to me? I tried to look at him, to really look. But the more I attempted to focus on him properly, the more my eyes seemed to slide off him. Like one of those optical illusions that comes into focus when you're looking at a different part of the picture. At one point it almost seemed like his neck was too long. But when I looked again, it was normal.
Cool. That whole, like, misdirection. I feel like I've seen that concept. Okay, I'm sorry. I feel like I've seen this concept before where, like, you are, like, you're pretending to be someone else. Like, this character is pretending to be someone else, but, like, they don't even look like them. But they have this, they're using this magic or, like, supernatural effect where, like, they look at them and, like, they can't quite focus on them, like, for some reason. I feel like I've seen this before. What have I seen this in? Some fictional thing, or it might be an anime or something. It's like, what have I seen this? It seems so familiar now. It's like this is like a very important part of this person's character. Like, you can look at them and you can't memorize any aspect of them. Like, they can't think of any aspect of their face. Like, they're like kind of. Like, they can't remember anything about this person. Like, they can't describe them. Like, it's attention slides off them. Dang, what is this character? No! I'm gonna be thinking about this for a long time, but I want to finish the episode. But for the rest of the day, I'm gonna be thinking about who this character is, who, like, no one's able to describe. I feel like the nobody, or the something, or I don't fucking know. Ugh, okay. It's something from something.
And I did not know this man. When evening finally came, he stood up. He nodded at me and told me how much he had enjoyed his visit. We must do this again, he said. And soon. Then he left. I stayed sat in that chair. And I cried. It was full dark when I was broken out of my despair by another knock at the door. This one was harsh and jarring, and I could hear the door frame rattle slightly at the impact. Standing there was another man I'd never seen before. He was black, dressed in a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up and a thin necktie. For a moment I had the idea he might be a Jehovah's Witness, but one look at his face dispelled that idea immediately. It was hard and stern, set in a look of determination, and his short hair was iron grey. He was very thin, with aging skin stretched tight over wiry, corded muscle, and though he was slightly shorter than I was, it seemed like he towered over me. He asked if I knew the man who had left my house earlier that evening. I laughed at that, a harsh laugh that surprised even me. I said I did not know him, no matter how many pictures might tell me I did. At this, the old
That's what
man's
pathetic
eyes
to say.
lit up with excitement, and I took an involuntary step back. If he noticed, he didn't show it, walking past me into the house and ordering me to get any photos that hadn't changed. I don't know if it was the certainty in his voice or my own feeling of hope.
He's looking for people who remember. He's hunting down the not them. He's hunting it down.
Sat on the sofa, exactly where my imposter cousin had sat not 2 hours before. But I finally got up the courage to ask him who he was. He told me his name was Adelard Decker, that he was an exorcist of sorts.
Decker.
I smiled
Is that familiar?
at that last part. I asked him if he thought my cousin was somehow possessed, but he was already looking through the box and ignored me.
Rip.
He pulled out the same 2 photographs I had found, the ones that hadn't changed. And again his mouth twisted into a wry smile. He told me to follow him, and I did. We walked over to an unmarked blue transit van parked on the other side of the road, and he opened the back doors. Inside was a large wooden box with a hinged lid. The man who called himself Adelard Decker climbed in and picked up the back of it, commanding me to take the other end. I did, and together we carried it into my house. It was heavy, and barely fit through the front door, but any objections I might have had were silenced by one look from Decker. We placed it down in the middle of the living room.
Oh yeah, he was the person mentioned last episode.
I caught a brief glimpse of dark, varnished wood before he slammed it down, almost trapping my hand.
Wait, what just
Shook
happened?
his head once, as I might have blid. The man who called it Mile. He told me to follow him, and I did. We walked over to an unmarked blue transit van parked on the other side of the road, and he opened the back doors. Inside was a large wooden box with a hinged lid. The man who called himself Adelard Decker climbed.
Oh yeah, he was the guy who's the guy who called it the not them. So he's the guy that knows a lot about this thing.
Together we carried it into my house.
Wait, what is this? I keep on fucking
That hadn't changed. Again, his mouth twisted into a wry smile. He told me to follow him, and I did. We walked over to an unmarked blue transit van parked on the other side of the road, and he opened the back doors. Inside was a large wooden box with a hinged lid. The man who called himself Adelard Decker climbed in and picked up the back of it, commanding me to take the other end. I did, and together we carried it into my house. It was heavy, and barely fit through the front door, but any objections I might have had were silenced by one look from Decker. We placed it down in the middle of the living room, and I instinctively went to lift up the lid. I caught a brief glimpse of dark, varnished wood before he slammed it down, almost trapping my hand, and shook his head once. "It's not for you," he said. Then he instructed me to go to my bedroom and not to leave until he told me it was safe. I did protest at that, and I asked him how locking myself upstairs would help save Carl. There was no sympathy in his voice when he told me my cousin was dead, that nothing would bring him back.
Is Sasha dead?
The best chance to
Really?
join him was to stay in the bedroom until everything was over. He did not seem inclined to tell me what he meant by
No, is Sasha really dead? For real?
so I did what he said. I suppose I could have pulled.
I mean, that makes sense. Like, why would this creature keep its victims alive? But I don't want Sasha to be dead.
I lay in my bed, and I tried to sleep. I did, though not well. The image of this new Carl kept intruding in my dreams and jolting me awake. The sun came up, and there was no word from Decker, so I stayed there, waiting for something to happen, though I had no idea what. I lay in bed all morning, and then into the afternoon. Finally, at about 3 o'clock, I heard the soft knock at the door. It was the exact same knock at the exact same time, and I felt my body seize up with fear. There was the sound of the door opening, but nothing else. I just lay there, straining my ears to hear any sound. The air grew close and heavy, like a thunderstorm about to break, but still I heard nothing. 10 minutes passed. Then an Then the air was split by the most unnatural scream I have ever heard. I cannot even begin to describe it except to say that there was nothing in it but the purest rage. Panic surged through me. I had to get out of that house. I threw open the bedroom door and charged down the stairs towards the front, and as I did so, I passed by the living room, and I instinctively turned my head to see inside. Adelard Decker stood in the corner. He was straight and motionless, his lips moving rapidly, though no sound came out of them. In the center of the room, next to the empty box, stood a table carved from dark wood.
It's a table.
All over with a sprawling, intricate pattern. And in front of that table was the thing that had said it was my cousin. It was long and thin, tops of it bent against the ceiling, and its stick-like limbs flailing from too many joints and elbows. Wrapped around
Too many elbows.
strands of what I think was spider's web, stretching back into the table, which I now saw pulsed along its carved channels with a sickly light. The face at the top of that gangly frame was like nothing on earth. That was all I saw, because the second after I had taken it in, I
Spiders?
was out of the door and down the street, running as fast as I could away from that house.
Bro, everything's connected.
And lay there on the street until a passerby asked if I needed help. I didn't return to my house until the next morning. Decker's blue van was gone, and in its place was another one, dirty white. There was something printed on the side, but I couldn't make it out under the grime. I watched two men in overalls carry that same box out of my house, load it up, and drive away.
Who are these dudes?
And it was the
Breaking
last
and
I
Hope?
saw them.
You keep on thinking it's Beacon and Hope, but apparently it's Breaking and Hope.
Or the thing that wasn't my cousin. My aunt and uncle have reported Carl missing. The police did come round and ask me if I knew anything, but I told them nothing. I just said we weren't very close. Statement ends.
So, what we got from that? let me do it before Jonathan says it before me. Sasha's dead. the table is the method of exorcism for this thing, apparently. This is why that dude had the table. Or he was always paranoid about something, right? I don't know what it was. I forgot. The dude had the table. So is it not that the table caused... It's not that the table is what caused this thing to infect people. This thing that infects people came after him because he had the table? I don't know. I'm going insane. So, and also Sasha's dead, apparently. I don't want that to be true. And also, Breaking and Hope, is it somehow related to this guy? But I thought this guy is Breaking and Hope, are they good? I thought they were bad. Yeah, I don't know, they're kind of sus. I guess it is two guys with Cockney accents. How could they be evil? But, no. But it's like, are they related to this guy? To this exorcist guy? This exorcist guy kind of saved our dude, even though he was a little bit cold about it. He saved our dude in this episode. But are they related to them? Are they to him? Are they like working together? Are they in joint practice, or are they like against him and they just stole the thing? Like, I don't know. I always thought they were bad guys for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just an idiot. I just always thought they were evil, just like every other named company or people that we've ever experienced in this show. Because our first experience with them was that coffin. And it was like, obviously, that must be a bad thing if they gave that guy... Well, I guess they took away the coffin. I have no idea who these people are. I don't know anything. This is interesting, but I don't know anything.
Folder marked 9910602. Where Gertrude's tape had indicated I would find the statement of Decker himself. There was nothing else in there. But I think
So,
it
no
helped.
Deco statement.
This thing, this
You said it.
Tied to the table.
Name drop. Tied to the table.
I found
Spider webs? Wait, I forgot to fucking talk about the spider webs. You said it looked like it was wrapped in spider webs. What? No, you're connecting this with the spider stuff now? Is the spider stuff against this stuff? I don't know. Okay, let's just keep going.
It was pronounced Calliope.
Ah, they found it.
her desk.
It's
Well
Calliope.
hidden, but if I'd been a bit more thorough, if I...
Just a scratch, John. I'll be fine. Can we begin?
Was there anything I could have done?
Calliope, that was the thing that I remembered.
I see you. Show yourself.
This was the thing from the finale. Right.
I see you. I see you.
And now I see you.
Someone's pissed.
See us?
Are you okay? You look awful.
Is he coming clean?
I'm trying to...
Trusting other people?
Listen, you should take the rest of the day off tomorrow as well.
Are you sure you
Don't want to infect anyone else. Best you stay home.
Not trusting other people. Sending them all home so he can go on his own revenge journey.
There's a walk-in
No.
place nearby I can...
No.
Wasn't so nice.
Still need to take care of here. And besides, I know you've both been under a lot of pressure lately. I think we could all do with a bit of a break.
Well, yeah.
I know. A lot of it's been because of me.
Finally! Self-awareness.
I'm sorry.
Aw.
Tim, I know things have been fraught.
Guess that's the word for it.
Well, I think
He
sometimes...
destroyed you, bro.
Because you're ill.
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry about everything.
John, look.
Okay.
You...
Right you are, John. We'll be going. Wait, what? Come on, Martin. We could do with a break. Do you need us to tell Sasha?
Oh, no, I'll be seeing her
Great.
later.
See you Monday.
Yes, see you then.
Hang on, Tim, we should probably...
Rip. Really?
You hear this? I'm sorry. You deserve the truth. I wish... I'm not losing anyone else. No, I'll be seeing her
Great.
later.
See you
I'm gonna
Monday.
hear this again.
Yes, see you then.
Hang on, Tim, we should probably...
If either of you hear this, I'm sorry. You deserve the truth. I wish...
If I had to hear this.
I'm not losing anyone else.
Rip. Really?
It is remarkably easy to buy an axe in central London. Harder to speak to artifacts storage, but not impossible.
Oh my god.
Destroying this.
You really opened with, it's remarkably easy to buy an axe in Central. I love Unhinged Jonathan Sims. He has been my favorite for this entire season.
Kill that thing.
An axe?
Damn sure it's going to hurt.
Mm.
That was very stupid.
What do you want?
There's no other way out of this room, you know? What? You don't have time to escape before they get you.
No, the table
Or
was...
finding it quite effectively. Even with all the protections you have here, I doubt you can survive them now. You need a door.
No, I need... shit!
Oh my god. John! You fool! You fool! Oh my god, 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 oh my god.
Under a Creative Commons attribution.
That laugh was very good. That laugh was very good.
Today's This episode
That was a
is
very
written
good
by
laugh.
Jonathan Sinner, produced
Okay, I'm sorry. Credits. I love you, credits. But I'm sorry. That was a very good laugh. I like how it didn't stop. It was like one of those awful little when with the audio layers. That was a very laugh. Thank you, Michael. The Michael static starts, and you go like, not the Michael static. He destroyed the table, which is what I realized what was going on when on like the second hit. I was like, what is he destroying? He's destroying the table. Jonathan, didn't you listen to the same tape as me? I get that he's probably much more stressed than I am, considering this is his real life. But in that tape, it seemed like the table was containing the thing. It seemed like it was like bound to it, but not in like a good way, like in a way that's good for us. Like it like contained him. It like whooped him. like the table was a good thing apparently. Like yeah. Like the table like was the way to like capture it. Like this guy called himself an exorcist in this episode, and he used the table to get rid of it and save that guy. John! John! Door? I don't want to walk through that door. We already had it set up. What happens when we go through that door? Excuse me? John! What are you doing? He's emotionally distraught. I get it. But it's like, Freaking Michael just showed up. He's like, haha, you screwed yourself. He comes dancing in. Mr. Gangly Man. What do I say? Also, that's interesting. What's the connection between Michael and I know the Insomnia Lady was somehow involved with Michael, and Insomnia Lady was also drawing fractals. Does Michael have something to do with the fractals too? I don't know. Or is it just another thing? Are all these things connected in ways? Are they like opposing each other? Some of these forces? I know Michael said he's neutral usually, but are other forces in this world like opposing each other? Or I don't know. The fractals thing, it might have something to do with Michael, it might not. Does Michael have something to do with the table too? I don't know. Or is the table... We just know the table is in some way opposing this thing, but not them. I don't know what the stranger is. I feel like I'm getting screwed in my head. I don't know who is who. I just hear these things and I'm like, that must be the stranger. That must be the darkness? ? I'm like, sure. I don't know who's who. I don't know what's going on, but I just know that Jonathan Sims screwed up, and now there's a freaking... That door episode was spooky. I don't want Jonathan Sims to have to deal with whatever this is. I don't know. I need to watch the other episodes, but I have to eat dinner soon. I don't know what's going on. I'm so excited for the next episodes. I'm so excited. Okay. Signing off into the next dimension. Those were cool. Those were some cool episodes. Bye.